So I'd like to offer you a few suggestions as you prepare for the English horn part of your audition. Let's start with the Ravel, the 4-lane. It's very important that you understand the tempo of this piece. This is not a movement that most people know. Most people are familiar with the first movement of this piece. And the English horn part by itself is sort of esoteric. You're not sure what to do with it. The first excerpt they're having you play doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I would actually encourage you to listen to a lot of recordings and listen at square one to what the oboe is doing with their dotted rhythms, and then prepare your second excerpt, which is the dotted one. Once you understand that tempo, then go back and play the first excerpt, which is technically not very hard. You just need to make it very interesting. So good, decent crescendos as the melody goes up and then back away. So up to the C sharp. And then down. And I probably played a little bit too fast there. For the second excerpt, this dotted rhythm is one of the most misunderstood things in music. It appears everywhere. Bum, ba-bum, bum, ba-bum, bum. So if you try and play the music the way it's beamed, you're going to get accents in funny places. So I would lead towards the next beat. So this one goes. So don't focus on the first three notes, but instead think about the second, third, and fourth note. Leave the first note out and play from the second note over the bar line to the downbeat. So for every time that happens. So up. Ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. Instead of ba, ba-ba, ba, ba-ba. It's just a slight difference in inflection. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum. That helps keep this moving forward. And then let the high A sharp sing out. When you play this excerpt, you can anchor the left hand D sharp so that you don't have to move both pinkies very awkwardly. So that works very well. Play through in the final bar before measure 5, before square 5. Play through the E sharp with a very singing tone. And aim down for the A sharp. and end gently. Never accent the last note of a phrase. At the end of this excerpt, again, you can anchor a note. In this case, you can anchor your G sharp key when you have a grace note from F sharp to G sharp and back. So leave that down. Okay? The most important thing with the Ravel is that you understand the tempo and the style, and that it, even though it's a very slow tempo, that it moves forward and don't get bogged down with unnecessary accents. Okay, so we turn our attention to the English horn solo from Dvorak's New World Symphony. This is probably the most important orchestral solo for English horn, one of the most important ones, so we need to really have a sense of what it's supposed to do. Those of you with older English horns, you may need to add some fingers in your right hand to keep your middle C from sagging, or your high C. Newer instruments and newer vocals tend to fix this problem, but it's okay to play C with the middle finger of your right hand down, and you may even consider adding another one. Just check it with a tuner to make sure that the intonation isn't funny. But this will help keep it from sagging when you're playing so soft. So yes, it's marked piano at the beginning, but you're playing the English horn, which no one will ever hear. So you need to project a little bit, and if you're more confident, if you start mezzo piano, you're more likely to get a good clean start on your middle C. So you can hear how much richer the E flat is, and the middle C is very thin. It's the same problem we have on oboe. So you need to really get around it with your embouchure and warm it up, and try and make them sound as close, as much alike as possible. Now the next issue we have with this solo is tempo. When we play it by ourselves, we tend to want it to be really slow and self-indulgent, but in the orchestra, it's going to have to move a little bit. So it says largo, but don't play it too slowly. So even though that's a pretty good tempo, I'm actually thinking the eighth note, just to help me pace myself. This excerpt is phrased in groups of 2 bars, and so it's absolutely okay to take a little break after the half notes at the end of bar 2, bar 4, bar 6, 8, 10, and 12, and then you're done. Don't feel like you have to play the whole thing through. Your mouth will get tired, you'll lose your tone quality, so have a little release. You don't need to play the half note full value. You can stop it early to breathe as long as you come in on time. In bar 5, you're not by yourself anymore. The clarinets are playing in thirds with you. I like to move this forward a little bit in bar 5 and then back in bar 6, but you can't go too fast. You can't make too big of a change or the clarinets won't go with you. So make it more about dynamic. So you hear in the first half of in the second half of bar 5, I move forward to the downbeat, and then in the second half of bar 6, I pull back as I approach beat 3. And then the next phrase, bar 7 and 8, I like to play this softer as an echo. So make sure that in bars 5 and 6, you're actually at a decent dynamic, so you have somewhere to go. So I'll play that for you. So right there is where you're going to be really tired and you're going to lose control of that C. So make sure that you taper the F down really well so you have time to take a breath and reset your embouchure. And then don't fall into the trap. In bar 9, dee da da, dee da da. It's eighth notes, it's not dotted anymore. So I'm not sure why he did that, but make sure that you play it correctly. Then at the end, you have to set yourself. Big crescendo up to the high C. Please don't try and pinch out the high C with your mouth. You're supporting from below. You are round and open, and the C needs to ring. So before you record this excerpt, I encourage you to practice octaves. Low C, middle C, high C. until they all have the same color. If you try and bite the high C, this will happen. Now, even if you manage to get it in tune, it's going to be thin, and this needs to be the triumphant moment in the movement. So let me play the last bit for you. And then do your very best to hold that last A flat and just taper it out so beautifully. I worry a lot more about the high B flat in the final bar than I worry about the high C. So notice that when I played it, I played over the high C. I didn't accent it. I let it sing, and then I played to the B flat. That's going to be a flatter note. You might need a little support on there. So you should practice getting from high C to high B flat. But don't make the C the goal. C is the beautiful peak on our way to something better. Okay, so I wish you good luck with your recording, and thank you for your time.